You are now listening to Sanity at the Movies. Let me read this review, the most recent review. A smug, arrogant, hypocritical, patriarchal, and patronizing podcast. Listener, you're better off getting movie opinions from strangers on the street. This is exactly the type of retrograde nonsense thing that gives Christians a bad name. If anyone was wondering the attributes of our podcast, well, you've got Ben. I think he encapsulates the smugness, the arrogance.
Nathan, I sure do try. I won't say I succeed every day, but that's what second chances are for.
Yep, that's what second chances are for. And Jake is getting a second chance to be hypocritical, patriarchal. Jake has 7 kids. He's the most patriarchal of all of us.
Oh man,
I am indeed a patriarch.
He's also a pastor. That's like a patriarch. And patronizing. We've got a Patreon. We give things to the patrons, and we ask them to patronize us. So there's a lot of patronizing going on both ways. Guys, if you were listening to this and you thought you were going to get anything good, we just need to make sure people know they're better off getting movie opinions from strangers on the street. But I don't know, you guys ready for some retrograde nonsense thing that gives Christians a bad name?
I guess so.
All right. I like that bad review. Hey, my name's Nathan. I'm your smug, arrogant, hypocritical, patriarchal, and patronizing host. There's Ben. He is he's another guy that appears on this podcast. He's also smug, arrogant, hypocritical, patriarchal, and patronizing. And Jacob Menzel, the pastor who's a master of cinema.
That's me.
How you doing, Jake?
Oh, I'm all right.
That's good. Well, you guys ready to get back into Justice League?
Boy,
it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. So I'm just going to be honest. Last time, in the before time, when we recorded Justice League, I did not have my daughter Theodora born. Since that time, she's been born. She was like inside my wife. Now she's outside of her. So you'll forgive me if I have absolutely no memory what we said in that first Justice League episode. Now, Ben and Jake, neither one of them has had a child since then, so they probably remember
everything
perfectly.
Dude.
Exactly what we said about Justice League. I think we just gave our general impressions and talked about the context that we brought to the Snyder verse and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much we actually talked about the movie.
Not much.
So let's just talk about the movie. What'd you guys think about that Snyder cut of Justice League?
Interesting mix of great and terrible. I enjoyed watching it a lot. Can't say I didn't.
I had fun with it.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. What's terrible seems pretty obvious. Is what's great pretty obvious, or maybe not?
Well, why don't you quickly list the things that are great and the things that are terrible, and then we can explore the things that we think aren't obvious about that list.
All right. Well, Snyder is a really cool visualist. He does a great job. I think I said this last time, but he gives you is this true? Let me see. Yeah, the most comic book visual world that I can think of in terms of colors and ideas and just visual stuff, and a different landscape here and a different one there and a future world here and just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we've had a lot of experiments in bringing comic books to the screen.
Yes.
And back in the early days, like the early 2000s, way back in the early 2000s, you guys remember?
Some of our listeners
Nathan,
were
I
born
remember
then.
as far back as the 1900s.
I remember as far you do?
Oh.
Yeah.
Jake, are you
good
120 years old?
I just remember the 1900s.
Some people call me Jake. Yes, that is one of my names.
Yes, I remember. That is what they used to call me. Jacob, yes.
I haven't gone by that name in a long time.
You come back to us now at the turn of the night. Hey, speaking of early 2000s comic booky cinema. So you have that Ang Lee movie where he quite literally divided the screen up into panels and stuff like that to try and get a comic book kind of feel. You've had different stabs at replicating what a comic book does, and some of them have been quite literal, and some of them have been like a Joss Whedon Marvel movie where we just make a movie and it features comic book characters, and we're not trying to like visually capture what a comic book does all that much.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse nailed it.
Yes, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, very good example. Also somewhat literalist, though. Like, we're going to see panels, and, you know, it's like they're actually bringing a comic book to life. What Snyder's doing, he's not bringing a comic book to life. He's finding the filmic equivalent of how to do that same thing. So it's not a one-to-one, but it's a how can we use the tools that cinema gives us to capture the same kind of thing, to create those splash panels, like when you are about halfway through your big graphic novel compilation and you open it up and it's just the one picture of Batman flying across the screen punching the parademon and the parademon's flying off the page. Like, how can we do that visually? And he does it with things, you know, people like to make fun of him. They think they're obvious, but I think he's a master of them. Things like speed ramping and slow motion and a lot of CGI and color and light. But as easy as those things are to sort of categorize and then say, oh, well, you know, I could do that. I could speed ramp. I could say, make it slower, guys. Slow it down. Being able to use those tricks with taste, which Snyder actually does, to bring comic books to life. Really cool. I think this is the best visual comic book movie ever. Yes, I will say that. I think
I agree.
In terms of doing what a great comic book does, a great bit of sequential art, in terms of doing that kind of action, making it fluid, making it cool, I would say, what would the contenders be? Nolan doesn't come close. The guy doesn't know how to shoot action. We can talk about that some other time. When you get us to 250 or 500 on Patreon, I think we'll talk about that.
He does know how to shoot like a single splash page of a thing.
Yes.
He can do that, but he can't shoot action.
Yeah, he'll have a memorable image. Yeah, things like that. But he doesn't.
It's the sequential part.
Yeah, he's not good at sequencing things. Sam Raimi, I think, is quite good, especially
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Verse.
Ben has made a compelling argument before for Mark Webb of Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is pretty awesome at that.
And visually, that guy is good. But I think the Marvel movies have this sort of assembly line way that they do things, and it's just fine. But I don't think there's anything particularly inspired about it. Marvel movies feel to me like the next logical step from like a Peter Jackson or a...
You know, oddly, I want to say that there are moments or scenes in like that Taika got that are a little bit that way in Ragnarok.
I've been thinking about that. The when Thor gets his lightning superpowers at the end.
Yeah, you've got that whole like mountain of people with the spear, you know, like imagery out of ancient gods or whatever type stuff. Some of that stuff.
But also the Frank Frazetta style. What's the Valkyrie flying out of the air when they're trying to take down?
But that's not part of a consistent fabric of visual style.
No,
it goes just into a different mode.
Yeah, when we get to the final third of that movie and to some of those, you know, action scenes or the flashbacks or whatever, yeah, it's like a different mode. But it does feel very comic booky in those moments.
Agreed. That was really cool.
Well, what I love about Snyder, though, is that it all feels of a piece. Lois Lane can be talking to Mrs. Kent, and they're just in an apartment. But for whatever reason, the apartment is really darkly lit, like they forgot to turn on the lights, and it's really stylized. And, you know, it feels like a drawing. It's an abstraction. It's not what Amy Adams and Diane Lane would actually be experiencing if they sat down in a...
Or the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of things that are terrible.
Speaking of things that are terrible.
It makes no sense.
Let's shoehorn something in and kill the emotional resonance of the scene. But, yeah.
I actually was glad that that scene felt so false and off to me that I was...
Yeah, maybe they saved the emotional resonance of the scene, or just said, we never had any, so...
I was like, what is this scene about, and why does it feel so fake and trying so hard? And then it was like, oh, this was an imposter. I guess I can feel better about it. It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea who this imposter is or what he has to do with anything here, but at least I don't have to feel bad about how badly done this scene was. How ill-conceived it was. I guess it had a bigger purpose.
I guess it did.
Well, in any case, my larger point, though, is that everything's completely stylized. Everything feels like a comic book. And I think that's pretty special. I really it's a treat to live in this movie. And personally, I love movies that are directed by a director and it feels like it. I actually like it when the director's sort of sitting next to you in your theater seat and nudging you in the ribs and saying, "Hey, I directed this. Isn't it cool?" I think we all like that. Ben's famously has a soft spot for Guy Ritchie, who's very much that way. Mm-hmm. And I think,
I'm with Ben in that. I'll see anything Guy Ritchie does.
Yeah. And I think he's cool. I would say that in terms of like understanding tricks and how to use them to create a visual thing that's one thing and not a bunch of little patches. Mm-hmm. Guy Ritchie is the only person I can think of in Zack Snyder's league.
Yeah.
Offhand, anyway.
Yeah,
there's other cool visualists, but
Guy Ritchie's a good comic book filmmaker. Actually, he's just never actually done a comic book. I don't think
his King Arthur would be the closest thing because you get like all these fantasy visuals integrated into a story. He'll like, oh, now we're just realistically talking with people, but it's still stylized. Now we're like in a crazy fantasy world, and it's going to feel like all of that stuff matches.
Yeah, I'm an apologist for that movie too. I love it.
And I'm an apologist for an even less liked movie, which is Sherlock Holmes 2, A Game of Shadows.
I like Sherlock movies.
I think the first one's...
don't?
I do.
I think the first one's pretty okay, but I love the second one.
I love it too.
I mean, it's got some lame, like, what's his face, Stephen Fry as Mycroft stuff. It's got some stupid humor and stuff, but the set pieces that when they're running away from the Gatling gun in the forest,
there's nothing like that.
The final fight with Moriarty is awesome. Yeah. Like there's
all kinds of. Even the way that Guy Ritchie will pull emotional resonance out of nothing because he knows how to direct stuff. It's like, I don't really care about telling a story with these characters exactly, but I'm going to imply enough visually to make you care.
Right.
For at least for a moment here and there. That's something. That's a trick.
Well, so people should pull up the scene from the Joss Whedon, one of the ones that the Joss Whedon haters now like to make fun of, from his version of Justice League, that's what it's called, where in broad daylight, Ben Affleck and Wonder Woman are walking along a path by a river, and they're just talking about, I think she's about to tell him the history of people standing against Thanos or whatever the bad guy's name is and all that stuff. It's when we're going to have those flashbacks, which is a bunch of Snyder footage. But that's a pretty good scene to watch for a completely uninspired filmmaker just getting coverage with a camera. There's nothing about the location or about the scene that's designed. You don't feel the architect of the scene. You just feel like somebody wrote some dialogue and they wanted to shoot it. And that's how a lot of these Marvel movies feel. That's how the Taika Waititi scenes in between the action scenes feel. Mm-hmm. There's not a close up in a Zack Snyder movie that doesn't feel like it was storyboarded, like it was thought through, like there was some visual thing that he wanted to do. And so just as an example of craftsmanship and of visual acting, it doesn't all work. Like I liked the Joker scene with Jared Leto, but I thought the way that he shot that was stupid. Probably he was shooting around the fact that he didn't have the two actors together and couldn't just actually shoot the scene the way that he would want to. Mm-hmm. But keeping Leto out of focus and all, there's things like that where he's making these big splashy directorial choices and they're bad.
Mm-hmm. But he's making choices and you feel it and you know that an artist is trying to do something here.
Right. Well, and it's what I appreciate in life, right? I like people who take responsibility for things, period. Like someone acted like this mattered and they made choices. You know, if I'm listening to a podcast, if I'm going to work, if I'm talking to a police officer, you know, this is something that I have respect for and I think people should have respect for. And Zack Snyder clearly is a man who knows what he wants and is wielding all of the power and money and everything that's at his disposal to get it. And you don't have to love him, but I think you have to have a certain amount of respect for a guy who has a vision and a guy who knows how to lead a giant group of people to get it. And if you've watched the Batman versus Superman Ultimate Cut thing, you know that,
which I just did,
his vision for that was interesting and coherent, actually, and the studio cut it down and it wasn't as good. It actually didn't make any sense and was boring and stupid and lame. And there's things that are really bad about Zack Snyder's vision, and I know we'll get into those as we go, but I do just want to start by saying I admire a man who actually looks like he wants to make a movie. You don't get the impression when you watch, for example, since he's the obvious whooping boy, a Joss Whedon film, that the one thing that Joss Whedon just wants to do is make a movie. What you get the impression he wants to do is write a script. He likes his dialogue, and I like dialogue too. I like the things that Joss Whedon can do. Divorced from all the stuff that's come out about him recently, we don't have to go there. But just as a type, like Aaron Sorkin, he can write. It's obviously the writing that's the exciting part for him. He's not a visualist. He's not. Yeah,
but there are some things that if you go back and in light of the modern Russoification,
yes.
Oh yeah.
If you go back, there's actually a lot even visually to really appreciate about Whedon. In those Avengers, he's always going to give you some really long takes.
I like that stuff.
That move and are, tracking all your heroes. And, the one scene where they're like, we're going to circle around them here and we're going to have one take fight scenes where everybody's got their thing that they're doing and it moves from, there's a lot of visual choreography there that is really pretty, at least by other Marvel standards, really sophisticated.
Well, and I'll do you one better, and this is true of Taika Waititi too. If your goal is comedy, which with Whedon it often is, you don't want to step on that too much.
Yeah.
Like Zack Snyder's universe is incapable of comedy, and one of the reasons is because Zack Snyder directs it to such an excellent degree that there's just no life in it. Ultimately, it is like a moving painting, and that's what I like about it. It's like a comic book come to life, but it does become all pageantry. It does become, the director's so busy nudging you that he never actually gets out of the way and lets you just enjoy two people talking, actually. And so with Whedon, it's like, I don't know, if Cap and Tony are just bantering and there's going to be a character moment or even an emotional moment, you might not necessarily want it to be any more directed, quote unquote, than it is.
Yeah, well, if you're going to split the difference, then again, you go to Guy Ritchie, who does love his dialogue.
Yeah.
Has a ton of fun just watching characters ping, but it's still going to make it feel designed somehow.
Yeah.
He won't be so painterly all the time as Snyder.
Right.
Like a moving painting, like you said.
Well, what I like about Ritchie and Snyder is not that every filmmaker needs to do this. I enjoy Aaron Sorkin, who's doesn't care about filmmaking, but would rather just write plays, probably. Started out as a playwright. I like those kinds of things. I like all kinds of movies that do all kinds of different things. But I do enjoy a movie where I stop halfway through and I think this would not work in any other medium. Like the script for Justice League sucks. And it's not because it's poorly written. It's because it's written to be turned into a Zack Snyder movie.
Well,
right.
and maybe also.
And it may be also
poorly written.
Yeah, maybe it also sucks, but it would never work on the page because it's not intended. It's a blueprint for doing what Snyder does.
Well, but again, all we're really saying though is we appreciate filmmakers who appreciate the craft of filmmaking.
Right, but you could actually watch Avengers the play. It would actually play.
Yeah, I'm not making an argument against what you're saying. I'm just saying there are certain directors that understand the elasticity of film and what you can do with it,
and they want to push it to the limits, and they want to show off. They want to be the Michael Jordan of basketball. We're not content to just get the basketball and the bat. I can't do a sports analogy. I don't know sports, but we want to be flashy. We want to. We have this medium. You can do things with this medium that you can't do with anything else. And
so we're going to explore all the things we can do here that we can't do anywhere else.
Right.
And Aaron Sorkin would always hold up as a play.
Right. And actually, in large degree, so would Whedon and.
But Guy Ritchie, no.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder, no. Brad Bird, no.
Right. Stanley Kubrick, no. Alfred Hitchcock, maybe, but only because people were so literate back then that you had to write a screenplay. Actually, he didn't care about the screenplay that much. It's just it's fun. So that's my first thing. That's I guess I'm just tagging on to you saying it was good.
Visuals. That was the first thing. Yeah. What other really cool things? Well, okay. Here's one thing that was interesting to me. Nothing in the Marvel movies, we'll take the big finale. with Thanos. Nothing in those to do with those villains, like a deep, dark spiritual reality. It felt like a more important, more imposing villain. Yeah, Thanos was.
We'd spent more time with him, and he was more of a fleshed out character.
That's right. But it didn't feel like another kind of being with another kind of evil who was more like insidious.
No. Thanos represents real people.
Right.
Like Marvel's point of view is there are people that hold it and are like, Thanos has a point, guys.
Yeah.
And Marvel villains generally always have points. They're generally always wisecracking humans, just like the heroes are wisecracking humans. Some of them are purple wisecracking humans, or
or they're raccoons, but they're
when they do the evil guy. It's like, what was that guy's name in the first Guardians? The blue guy.
Oh,
yeah, it's just boring. Marvel just doesn't care about that kind of. They don't care about.
Same with ice elves and
the dark elves, Jake.
The dark elves and the ice giants and the
The whole conceit of Marvel is that we are the heroes. What if heroes were us? And what if good guys were us? What if good guys? What if heroes and good guys? Sorry, folks. I had a baby. My wife had a baby. Yeah. What if we were all? What if it was all relatable? That's Marvel. DC is always. What if it was all beyond us and big and sort of Greek tragedy, and that goes for their heroes, which I'm sure we'll talk about. That also goes for their villains, who are otherly, who are demonic, who are evil in a way that I don't think Marvel just even usually tries for.
No, Darkseid was way creepier than anything I've seen in a Marvel movie. Creepy to the point of like, I don't know, effective.
Yeah.
Effective. Like, even to the point of making me feel like, that's really dark. Like, the world is, like, we have enemies like that. Wait a minute. Like, that's really evil. Like, you are you a little too close to, like, reality, Zack Snyder? Not that Darkseid has very much to do, but you don't have to give him much to do.
Well, what I love is that they play it straight. And I love when Marvel subverts these things. But if we were talking about of all things, anti-life equation, Marvel would do so much work to make fun of it before we could, because there's nothing that's easier to make fun of than the stupidity of the anti-life equation. But I really admire Zack Snyder and his team for just having these moron bad guys talk about, we have found anti-life. And without a hint of parody, without a hint of anything.
No one's making a joke.
It's just like, oh my goodness, they found anti-life. That's not good. That's like the opposite of life.
Yes, that's what anti-life means. Marvel joke. Right?
Well, yeah, and this whole movie.
This is what they would do. They would do that. They'd be like, they would make that exact joke. That's exactly what they would do.
And because they know,
they would have somebody say anti-life. It's like against life. Yes, that's what anti-life means.
Right? Yeah.
And then people would quote it for years. And I think it's hilarious.
Well, and I don't want to be a recency bias jerk who is mad at Marvel for doing all the things that I always liked about them. I love that they're subversive. I love that they're humorous. I love that they're relatable. It's always been fun about Marvel. And the second
always what's gross about Zack Snyder is how humorless he is.
Yeah.
It's like, dude.
Although I will say, in the good category, he has clearly listened to the audience who found Batman versus Superman too dark, who found Man of Steel too dark. This is Snyder's attempt to course correct. And it's still dark, and it's still too violent, and it's still too mean-spirited, and it's still too humorless. But it actually is a lot more intentionally funny, even minus the Whedon stuff, than Batman versus Superman was. Yeah. Batman versus Superman was just mean-spirited schlock. We're going to rip a toilet out of a stall, as I always like to remind people, and bash it over Superman's head, because that's what the 11-year-old boys really wanted to see. That's why we bought our ticket for this uplifting story.
Everyone who bitterly resents Superman.
Right.
Yeah, get him.
It's just
Superman sucks. Why is he so awesome?
Yeah, that was a downer of a movie, even though it had some of the coolness that Justice League has.
I mean, Justice League has the Flash, who's a pretty effective humorous character, even minus the Whedon stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got Batman and Alfred's relationship done pretty well, with a hint of the wry irony that Jeremy Irons can always bring to Jeremy Irony. So
that was good. You've got a couple of really good lines. What's your superpower? I'm rich. Pretty great.
Yeah, that feels like a Tony Stark line to me. That's the only, but they are pretty similar characters.
Tony Stark is just, they just did a better Batman before somebody nailed that version of Batman.
Yeah.
What else are you supposed to do?
I would put in the good category. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I think he's great.
Too.
I think he's great in the Batman versus Superman. Even the script gives him some dumb stuff to do and some mean stuff to do, but
yeah, he's great.
I really like that take on Batman.
He's great, and he's, at least in Justice League in particular, he's one of the most vulnerable of the Batman. In other words, he brings the Bruce Wayne and the Batman together. I don't think anyone since Michael Keaton really tried to do that. Especially Michael Keaton and Batman Returns tried to do that and did it well. But Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, whose fault is it? Maybe both of them together.
Well, Michael Keaton and Tim Burton's solution to the problem was, I'm just always Batman on the inside. I'm a freak. I'm a psycho. I'm an empty shell of a man who's just out for revenge on the world. And there's the famous scene in Batman Returns when you first meet Batman and they shine the light out in the sky and it reflects down into the mansion and Bruce Wayne is just sitting in the dark.
Just waiting.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Which I love. It is cool, but it is also a really sad, psychotic take on the character, actually.
Yes, it is.
And what I like about Ben Affleck's Batman, he's actually the Batman that I grew up with in the animated series, who's a pretty good...
closest thing to it, yeah.
He's a pretty good Gotham patriarch, a pretty good city father who... has his act together, he's getting revenge on the world. He's bringing all the dark Batman stuff, but it's an integrated human being who's able to lead the Justice League and
also feels cool. Like Ben said, very vulnerable about it. Like he's very aware that he's the most fragile person there, but he's going to throw in, he's going to assemble the team. The one thing he knows he brings is he's smart. He sees it. He understands it. He's got to figure out how to. He's just going to take responsibility, even, and make it happen.
Right.
And he's going to throw in battle too, even though he might only be able to take out 1 or 2 parademons for every 10 that Wonder Woman can take out.
I don't know. With his Batmobile shenanigans, he took out like a couple hundred or something.
Yeah,
that was
but
but Snyder does wisely.
He's rich. Yeah.
in the Whedon cut, I think it's like right before Superman shows up. It's like, Wonder Woman drops her sword and the Flash is down, and then like you see Batman and his gun jams or something like that. So it's just like, oh no, Batman can't throw in either. Like they all fail right before Superman shows up. Okay. In this, it's like once the actual fight against Thanos, I can't remember that guy's name, starts. Batman doesn't have anything to contribute. He's not a god person. He's just Batman. He can be like watching their flanks and shooting some parademons, and
his role is to keep the parademons from bringing down the Flash.
Right.
So that's all that he's doing.
Right, which is fine.
It's fine.
But he's not going to be one of the 3 people that get a final blow on Darkseid in that incredibly over the top.
On Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf, sorry.
Yeah.
Death scene.
Which, by the way, I have to say about that, the movie effectively made you hate Steppenwolf throughout the movie so much that by the final scene when he is impaled and then punched through a portal and then has his head hacked off, my wife was like, yeah! Which I thought about afterwards, like, oh, wow. I guess
that's an achievement.
The filmmaker did a good job.
I thought Steppenwolf, I mean, the talk about it.
I really liked Steppenwolf.
He was great.
Oh, yeah.
I really loved the detail in the CGI and
his armor was the kind of glistening rainbow, whatever it was.
And he had really good detail. Like his skin had really good detail when you saw it. It was just like, wow, this guy is very stylized, but he lives really smoothly in this style and in this world, in this reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he was great. And I liked I thought they gave him just enough of, it wasn't relatable, but it was just like, okay, this guy wants to get back in the good graces.
It just makes you terrified they do it in a way that makes you terrified of Darkseid. It's like, this is a scary guy. And he is like, he's the kind of guy that's like on the outs and is terrified.
It's him or you. He doesn't have a choice. He will bring your world down because he's toast otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an effective way to split the difference because it makes him scary, but it also makes him defeatable. He's not ultimately Darkseid or anybody like that.
And it effectively raises the stakes with Darkseid. Like, when you get to the I'll do it myself moment, Thanos. It's like this isn't some weird purple guy out of nowhere that you didn't really understand. Like, he really is looming over this entire thing, and it is scary that there's now nobody between the two of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, what else goes in the good category? Cybertron's story was definitely a lot better in this version.
Yeah.
I actually liked him. I actually liked his dad stuff.
I liked it too.
Didn't make me cry or anything, but I thought it was a nice understated way to do a little father-son, dad sacrifices himself story.
Yeah.
It's the way that Zack Snyder can do emotion by sort of sidling up to it and not trying to do more with it than make it carry more weight. Like when Zack Snyder tries to just tell a love story or something like that, it's crap. But if he just kind of letting this story be on the side, it's just fine. Just fine. Aquaman's still kind of a 0 in my opinion, but I never did like old Aquaman all that much.
They gave him a moment or two that was good. They give him a mood, really. That's mostly what Snyder can do with Aquaman in this movie.
Yeah, he
give him a visual mood.
Made a very effective beer commercial or something like that.
That's right, whiskey. I think they give him I think there's one moment with him that lands.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's when they're talking about Cyborg having to carry the weight of everything.
I really like Aquaman a lot, and what I like about him is that you don't like him. I like
that Nathan doesn't like him specifically.
Yeah, I think that I think it's the exact opposite of what they did with Thor, where they took out awesome bro Thor and made him into a slobby idiot because they thought they would pander to nerds who, hate jock awesome Thor, and I love that they just lean into that like jock bro Aquaman and don't care what anybody thinks.
Right.
And pander to other people in the crowd.
Yeah, well,
I just like it when it feels like...
I think that's a good argument, actually.
I like it when it feels like they're not pandering to the nerd crowd that hates jock bros.
Right. Well, I don't think Zack Snyder particularly likes those people. Actually, Zack Snyder looks and acts like a jock bro. He made a movie with Gerard Butler, who's the most jock bro guy of... like all time, and I actually like Gerard Butler just fine, but 300 is probably the ultimate jock bro movie with the ultimate jock bro actor, directed by the ultimate jock bro director.
And I just like, after years of Marvel pandering to nerds by pissing on jock bros, I like that we got one in Aquaman, and I don't especially like him. I just like the fact that he exists and he's there, and nerds who hate that sort of thing and would rather Marvel piss all over him have to deal. I don't know. I don't know. It's my inner contrarian or something.
Here's what I like, and this is definitely my inner contrarian, but I like beautiful Norwegian babes singing as he goes into the water. And then the most beautiful and virginal of them all has his sweater, and she brings it up and she smells it. Yeah. And then she smiles as they sing the song to the god of the seas.
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I can't even tell whether I love it ironically or not. I just know it excites me to even remember. I would love to pull that scene up and watch it right now. I like when he walks it in slow motion. I don't know if he's drinking a beer or something, but there's some hipster song and he's just walking into the sea and it's in super slow motion and the waves are... Here's my big take about this. This is a good place for my big take. Zack Snyder would be an awesome director for Homer's The Odyssey. Zack Snyder gets that kind of virtue, and homeschoolers don't. They read The Odyssey, and they think it's about actual virtue, but it's not. It's about pride. It's about conquering your enemy. It's about taking vengeance on the people that were trying to...
It's about conquering women.
And it's about conquering women. And Zack Snyder, he is the best filmmaker we've ever had in the history of the medium, and I'm saying this with no hyperbole or exaggeration, he should direct Homer movies or Greek. He actually gets it. What I think the Greeks are, when you read those, what's compelling about reading those stories is that you have the...
What about Neil Gaiman?
He could write the script, maybe. But no. Neil Gaiman couldn't do it. He's too much of a nerd. He's too meta. Okay. Zack Snyder's not meta. Zack Snyder just does it. He just wants to tell these... Neil Gaiman would be like, we all feel bad because Beowulf acted this way.
I'm trying to find a counterpoint. I think you are probably right.
Gaiman wrote the Beowulf script, and in that Beowulf script,
I never saw that.
Beowulf sleeps with Grendel's mother, and that's how the dragon's born. And so it's all this Freudian guilt complex and everything, which isn't just doing Beowulf. Snyder would just be like, he's Beowulf. He has muscles. He kills 3 monsters, and then he dies. It's awesome. And that's actually how the poem is.
It's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And one of the monsters is a hot woman. And that would be Snyder's take on the... And there's other hot women in the background.
They all want to sleep with Beowulf.
Right, exactly.
But he's too busy killing monsters.
Right. And that's basically the poem. And if you read Homer, that's the story of Odysseus. That's who he is. There's no greater virtue. Odysseus disguises himself. He goes places. People are like, I don't think you're that cool. And then he's like, I am that cool.
Now die.
Now die. That's what I think when you read the Greeks, it's the male instinct to kill and to conquer and to seduce, to sleep with, untethered to Judeo-Christian morality. That's what makes those stories compelling. And that's exactly what Snyder's worldview is. That's what he really enjoys rubbing our nose in. If Diana existed in the form that the comic books have described, then she would be better than us. If she stopped a bank robbery, heads would smash into the ground, blood would be spilt, and it wouldn't matter. She gets to do that because she's Diana. She's better than you. She is a god who walks among us, like Odysseus, like Hercules. She's just Athena. You know, exactly. When Athena shows up, you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be it's going to be arbitrary. It could be awesome. It could be cruel. But actually, it'll probably be a combination of all of those things. It'll be arbitrary, it'll be awesome, and it'll be cruel all at once. And anytime a superhero shows up in Snyder, a quote-unquote superhero, that's basically the combination you're going to get. And he's not asking us to sit in judgment on that. No. He's just asking us to enjoy that, to celebrate that, to say these people are better than us and they get to do what they want.
Well, and it's sort of like, and from the perspective of the gods, how cruel is it? Right. How cruel is it when you go outside and step on an ant?
Right. Especially if the ant was robbing a bank.
Right.
Great. They're working for a side that we recognize as our side, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But it sort of feels somewhat arbitrary at the end of the day. Superman could have landed in Russia and be working for the Russians. Snyder wouldn't do that because it's not commercial. It's not, and he's not interested in asking those kinds of questions. He's just interested in presenting these godlike figures, and that's how 300 was, and that's how all these movies are. And I think that's the good and the bad of Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Well, that's what should make us the most uncomfortable with Justice League.
And it is uncomfortable, and it is bad. But if you're not uncomfortable with, and I really am saying this without any joke, if you're not uncomfortable when you read the Odyssey in the same way, then I don't think you've ever read the Odyssey. Mm-hmm. I don't think you've ever actually read what's there. Like, Odysseus is the kind of person who considers the lives of his men to be very expendable.
Yep.
As he goes about his great mission that he's been fated by the gods to do, and that he has the gods arbitrarily deciding to help him out on. He doesn't mind cheating on his wife. He doesn't mind making his wife suffer. He doesn't mind taking revenge. He doesn't mind doing all these things. And we are supposed to celebrate him precisely, not because his goals are all that great, but because his ability to achieve those goals is the best that the world's
extraordinary
ever known. It's extraordinary. And I think when Christianity sweeps through the Western world, what it starts to do is take those kinds of heroes who are great at accomplishing their goals, and that's why they're great, and tether them to
in service of God and others.
So Robin Hood is great at shooting his arrows, but that's not really what the story's about. The story's about he's great at shooting his arrows to win Maid Marian and to support King Richard. Mm-hmm. We've tethered the manly attributes to a worthwhile goal, but the Greeks didn't have God.
And we've also introduced the idea that because we're connected to, we've introduced the idea that self-sacrifice is a noble means to attain those greater goals.
Right.
Where that's just Homer, no.
Well, unless you're talking about personal glory.
Right. Death for glory.
Yourself.
Yeah, it's okay to die for glory, for personal glory, but that's it. That is the only virtue. That's the only virtuous way to die, is for personal glory. Otherwise, you die like a woman, and that's and like a woman is what Homer would say, what Achilles would say.
Right.
Right. Like
those are the kinds of insults that the characters.
That's not me.
Right.
Those are the insults. Mm-hmm. That's what they would say. Because otherwise, you're not in control. And it's not to your end, which is your own personal glory. The only way to die a virtuous death is to die for the sake of your own personal glory. It's the only way to take it in hand. And not die passively.
Mm-hmm. And I think Zack Snyder's just a little bit ahead of the curve. Like, I think our society is working pretty hard to untether the killer instinct from anything noble. Just think about that. I brought up Robin Hood. You guys saw the trailers for that stupid Robin Hood movie with Jamie Foxx and
Joel Edgerton
and all that.
Yeah,
that movie. The trailers were sold on.
No, it wasn't. It was.
It's the guy from King Arthur. No, it's not. Taron Edgerton.
It's the guy from Kingsman.
It's the guy from Kingsman.
Yeah. Taron Edgerton. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I just substituted Joel for Taron.
Joel Edgerton is an awesome actor, but
Joel Edgerton's from Warrior and all that kind of stuff. Those movies were not so much about the way that they sold that movie wasn't he's going to defend the king and win Maid Marian. It was
and protect the poor.
It was he's really good at shooting arrows. He's really great. He's cool. He has this killer instinct that's better than everybody else. And I think that's the direction that movies and culture, we're getting back to that kind of pagan reality as we abandon Judeo-Christian morality. I think Snyder's he's just more upfront about it and more charming about it. Actually, I'm not really trying to defend him, but it also probably seems like I'm maybe not attacking him as much as I should. It's bad, but he's good at it and he's honest about it. And I'll take him, I think, over somebody like James Gunn or
James Gunn is more like, man, I like perversity and violence, and it's fun stuff.
Yes.
Here, come with me. Let's have a laugh.
And Warner Brothers is giving him the keys.
Yeah, with that Suicide Squad, which looks like it's going to be quite perverse.
It's going to be.
I regret watching that trailer. Actually, that's how perverse I would say it is. Like, yeah, that was bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Bad. Yeah, and what James Gunn.
I didn't realize that it was an R-rated trailer that wasn't suitable for all audience. I'm glad I didn't watch it with my kids. I just watched it by myself.
Didn't it have the little red band at the beginning?
I just wasn't paying attention at the beginning.
I knew it was that, and I watched it anyway. And then I was like, why did I do that?
That was a silly thing to do.
It's Quentin Tarantino, but more funny and
with a visual style.
And yeah,
like
it's going to be like he's found his happy place. Mm-hmm. In this comic book world of magical realism where he gets to do whatever he wants.
Well, what is it? So yeah, he is more perverse than Zack Snyder. He's also just always wrapping it in irony. It's like he's lying about it. Zack Snyder is just doing it. Zack Snyder really does just believe in Homer's Odyssey and just want to tell those kinds of stories. I don't think that that's what James Gunn. I actually don't think there's a lot of people out there that are doing exactly what Zack Snyder's doing. I'm not sure quite how to.
Michael Bay.
That's
but clunkier.
Michael Bay actually feels like he has in his worst movies, which I saw, for example, I regret seeing it, but when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, I saw Bad Boys 2 and things like that, or even The Rock. Michael Bay feels like he has actually more bloodlust than
Snyder.
What I don't get from Snyder is I want to rub your nose in how bloody it is. The blood is ultimately the point. Now, I'm not saying Snyder's not over the line in terms of violence, because he is. I'm just saying I think Snyder has something else in mind. I think he just wants to show. I think Snyder really is interested in, like, if Diana punches someone, they leave a blood stain on the wall. That's just the way it would actually work.
It definitely, at least in Justice League, all of the over-the-top violence does feel inevitable in a way that it doesn't in lots of other movies.
Well, even in a bad movie like Batman versus Superman, when Batman bursts through the ceiling and fights all those guys in the warehouse, I just feel like it's not Zack Snyder saying, I want to make the most violent Batman. It's him saying, if there was a Batman, this is what it would look like. This is how you take on a warehouse full of guys. This is
24 guys.
This is what happens to them. These are the things from your utility belt that you use, and this is what happened. And so I'm not saying that that's good or ennobling, or I'm not trying to mount a defense for that. I am saying it's different than...
It's more honest.
Yeah.
That's what you're really arguing.
Yeah, I think it actually is.
Well, yeah, it is. Whatever kick Zack Snyder gets out of it, James Gunn is different. He does just like the perversity. It's like he wants that place of perversity and irony, and he wants you to enjoy it. If he can show people being ripped apart by a shark villain and make you like it, make you think it's funny,
right? Then
he'll do it. It reminds me of the same thing, like Boondock Saints or something.
Yeah. It's adolescent kind of.
I hate that movie.
I do too.
And James Gunn is way more sophisticated than that guy. But Boondock Saints is all about, like, we're gonna kill people and we're gonna have jokes about gay sex and we're gonna do this violent stuff in slow motion and you're gonna think it's funny and you're gonna quote it and you're gonna show your friends and everyone's gonna watch it. That's what that movie is. But James Gunn is just that, but he's way better at it.
Right. James Gunn knows that it's evil for a shark hero to eat a hapless enemy soldier, but he thinks it's cool to rub your nose in the perversity of it and laugh about it. If Zack Snyder did it, it would be like, if there's a shark hero, then he eats people. That's just the way it would be. Come on, folks.
You wanted a shark hero. Did you not consider?
I mean, I actually think that that's true, and I actually admire Zack Snyder. You know, if we're allowed to talk about these things on a continuum, right? If we're allowed to make distinctions between one kind of bad and a worse kind of bad, then I think Zack Snyder's actually much more admirable than someone like James Gunn, who's perverse, or even someone like Michael Bay, who just seems to be getting adolescent kicks out of having the camera swoop through a woman's skirt or having just grotesque, stupid, violent things happen because it's fun to watch movies about grotesque, stupid, violent things. They're, in the best jock bro way, seems like a sincere person. And in, you know, I'm as ironic as they come, but in an age of irony and of ironic superheroes and of people like James Gunn who couch their perversity in irony so that they can get away with it and make it palatable, it's nice that Zack Snyder is just a sincere believer in Odysseus.
Yeah. He is actually, that is one thing I was struck by when I watched Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. I wish there were another phrase to add to that, but I don't think there is. Is it he was sincerely asking, and he wasn't doing a good job. He was sincerely asking, like, moral questions, like, Superman, your actions caused, because you saved the world in the way you did, a lot of innocent people died. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're either going to stop saving the world, or you're just going to realize you can't have clean hands. What's it going to be? And Zack Snyder actually is going to ask that question and expect that you would take it seriously, that he would have a Superman who would have to think about that.
Well, and what I sort of really admire about Zack Snyder is he answers it. The answer is yes, it's worth having that Superman.
That's right. It's worth
actually.
Having it.
Somebody like Nolan wants to kind of have his cake and say, was it ever really worth it? Or did Batman actually just make things worse? Like, that's the question that's intriguing about those Batman movies. Zack Snyder's like, no, he's Batman. Of course he didn't make things worse. Now, did he bash in a lot of heads? Did people die? Did the Joker happen? Yeah, but he's still Batman. Come on, guys. We like Batman, don't we? Like, he's Batman.
Well, what it actually reminded me of is it's the whole question of, are you going to take responsibility as a man? Because as soon as you do, like our pastor, Tim Bailey in Bloomington says, you add your sin to the mix. You're going to take responsibility for things. You're going to deal with other people's sin. Well, you're going to become guiltier than if you hadn't in certain ways. But the one thing you won't be guilty of is abdication because you're going to take responsibility. There's this book I read, a fantasy book about a knight. It's very like allegorical, symbolical. It's not called The Knight. It's called The Book of Knights or something. And the guy comes face to face with the question of, well, I tried to be a good knight and I did all these things that caused a lot of extra problems. And then I had to clean them up. And the book asked the question like, well, was that worth it? And the answer is, of course it was worth it. Like, you're a knight. You took responsibility. You created problems, but then you also took responsibility for the problems you created. Right. And that's part of being a man, basically, because that's all the book is about, being a man. Right. That's all. And there is a valid, there's a lot of pagan thinking in that exact way of approaching it, but there is Christian truth in there.
And I think Zack Snyder is the old school pagan version of that. Like, if you want to say there's something good about the hero Odysseus, then Zack Snyder sort of captures that.
It just occurred to me that we should have a Sanityville character. Maybe he's a filmmaker named Snack Snyder.
Snack Snyder?
Maybe not.
I'd watch him. Or I'd watch his movies.
Jake's shaking his head.
Did you guys see that stupid Brad Pitt Troy movie?
Yeah, I think I have.
I think, yeah, it's such a total...
I have not seen the whole thing.
It was a waste of time. One of the reasons it was a waste of time is because the movie doesn't really believe in Achilles. It's like, Achilles is awesome, but he's also violent and petulant.
It only really believes in
Hector.
Right. And what Zack Snyder would do is make things just as gritty, make them just as problematic, and then say, yeah, of course we believe in Achilles. He's Achilles. And we believe in Hector. Go at it, boys. That's why this story's great. That's why people remember it 4,000 years down the road or 3,000 or whatever it is, because we've got these two guys. We've got a rock versus a immovable whatchama, whatever the saying is.
An unstoppable force versus an immovable object.
Yeah. Make your bets. We're not here to cry about it. Come on. I don't know. I'm talking myself into maybe more admiration for Zack Snyder than he actually deserves.
Yeah, I think maybe you are, but it is true.
Let me be clear. He's perverse, but I don't know.
His movies aren't worth watching.
Nope. But if you're going to watch one, then I would say Justice League is probably the best and has the least...
It's the best I've seen.
Yeah.
I've seen most of them, truth be told. And yeah, this one's... I do not recommend... His Watchmen.
Haven't seen it.
It's just way over the top with the violence, which comes from the comic book, but still.
Ugh, yeah.
I do not recommend 300. It is just a jock bro piece of crap. There's
the zombie movie.
Yeah, obviously I don't recommend it. If any of our listeners were thinking about watching Dawn of the Dead, then don't.
Sucker Punch.
If any of our listeners were thinking about watching Sucker Punch, did you see the cover of the DVD? Don't.
Yeah, I've seen Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and this. I think that's all that I've seen.
I think that's all I've seen.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. What else is there, Nathan? What other movies are there?
There's The Legend of the Gahul, the Owls of Guardians City.
I actually might be willing to see that now. It's a kid's movie.
I bet it admires the same kinds of things. And
I bet it does. It has the same kinds of storytelling flaws and lack of humor.
It is interesting that a lot of the right people don't like Zack Snyder. Like a lot of perverse, liberal idiots. Now, it's not like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's actually a bad construct. But I will say he makes a lot of the right enemies, actually. It's also true he attracts a lot of the most obnoxious internet trolls and most demanding and annoying fans. And he plays to them in a pretty childish way, which is what the whole last half an hour of this movie is. And it worked. I wanted to see Justice League Part 2 about as much as anyone.
Yep.
But man, he took the studio's money and then gave a big middle finger to Warner Brothers and said, I really don't care what you're planning in my absence. I'm going to make all the fans annoy you.
That's right. I'm going to set up and reference every possible thing I can.
I'm going to validate my bratty children, and then I'm going to drop them at your house and tell you to babysit them, Warner Brothers. I mean, that's really all he did. Oh, man, you could feed them some candy. And I happen to own the candy corporation. But
there was an April Fool's article, which is what it had to be. It's still up. You can find it saying, Warner Brothers agrees to greenlight Justice League 2 and 3 based on how popular the Snyder Cut was. Anyway, fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Seeing Martian Manhunter was cool, and you had that Joker scene, which was pretty cool, I thought.
We live in a society.
He didn't actually say it in the movie, though. He just said it in the trailer, which is another cynical move on Snyder's part.
Yep.
I actually like Jared Leto's Joker. I thought Zack Snyder's writing was kind of stupid, you know. That's one promise I plan on keeping, Joker. All that kind of stuff. It's pretty stupid. But, you know, again, when Odysseus and his men defeat the suitors and then they take all the servant women that have been sleeping with the suitors out and they cut their throats and everything, you know, that's the kind of hero that Snyder believes in. So he writes dialogue for Batman where he's like, before she died, Harley Quinn said, kill you slow. Yeah. That's one promise I plan on keeping.
Yeah, it's really gross.
It's so stupid. It's so grim dark, as the internet likes to say.
Grim dark, and
it is dumb. But I liked Jared Leto because I hate Jared Leto. He's one of the most pretentious jerks.
He's so gross.
He's just the worst. And I've never liked him in a movie, but I liked him here because he underplayed, which I thought was so smart. Like, we've seen so many over-the-top Jokers, but he actually talked in a normal person voice. And he did like a funny laugh, and sometimes he would go into this kind of thing, but mostly he just used his regular voice. And after that Joaquin Phoenix hot garbage and 20 years of Heath Ledger memes, it was kind of nice to see the Joker underplayed a little bit. And that stupid Suicide Squad movie, the less said about that, the better.
Yeah, well, you felt, in contrast to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, this is the smart.
Yes.
It's the smart it's just the smart version. Or it's the smart Joker.
Right.
It's the Joker that you don't know what's going on. Actually, he's hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going on in there. But you know it's scary. And you know that it's like what we talked about. Did we ever talk about that movie?
About what?
The Joaquin Phoenix Joker?
I think we probably did, but I don't think we didn't do an episode.
We did a Sound of Sanity episode.
We hated the movie so much we didn't want to encourage anyone to go see it, even to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So
anyhow,
I don't think we did an episode, but
there's Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. He's scary because he just might kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, if you put the two of us in a warehouse together or something like that, I feel like I have a good chance of walking out alive.
Right.
But Jared Leto's Joker,
you don't know what he's thinking.
You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
He's smarter than you, and you're gonna die, and it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be a horrible death. He's gonna laugh,
which is what makes the Joker.
And you're not gonna see it coming. And there's just nothing you can like. He taps into that sense of psycho horror that the Joker as a character at his best taps into.
It's what makes the Ledger performance so legendary and wonderful. It's that for all the shtick, and this is what people doing these kinds of performances never understand, for all the shtick, for all the flamboyant stuff that he has to do, for all the war paint and everything, he's playing an intelligent man underneath that who's doing shtick. Like, you know that Ledger's Joker is thinking about this, and you don't really know what he's like when the makeup comes off, when he's just sitting at home drinking his coffee.
And that's the point.
And that's the point. But you see intelligence in his eyes, and you see purpose, and you see, even though he likes to give speeches about how he doesn't have a plan, you see that he has a plan.
He has a plan.
You just don't know what it is.
He's a psycho genius, and his whole part of the plan is for you to. He's a good magician. He's a prestidigitator. He's out there, and he is keeping your eye off the ball He's misdirecting you. He's making you look at one hand while he's doing something with the other constantly, and you just don't know where to look.
It's actually the opposite of the performance I don't like, which is from an actor that I usually do, which is Jesse Eisenberg, and as Luthor, I feel like he just plays psychotic little boy, and you don't actually sense a lot of intelligence or a coiled serpent beneath all of it waiting to strike. You just, in the worst moments of that performance, there are some moments that work, but in the worst moments, he's just playing petulant, insane Elon Musk or Steve
Something
Jobs
like that,
or whoever they thought.
It's sort of there are other characters like this too. You could say that Jack Sparrow is kind of like this, right? He plays this swaggering, half-drunk gay pirate, but he's always got a plan.
Right.
There's always something, there's always an angle he's working. He's just trying to distract you from it.
Well, one of the problems with that franchise as it went on is I think that the filmmakers and the writers lost track of how on top of it Jack Sparrow was actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
In the original, which isn't, I don't think, a movie that holds up all that well.
No.
But in the original, you understand that Jack Sparrow is always pretty much on top of things, no matter how much.
He's always ahead of the game.
Right.
He's ahead of everybody. He's got a plan. He's working a plan. He's keeping it close to his chest. And he's just playing insane so that you sort of go along.
And he'll still do slapstick, but in the original, he's Bugs Bunny. In the sequels, he becomes more Daffy Duck.
Exactly.
Like, things are just happening that are outside of his control. And sometimes he'll turn into Bugs Bunny. Like at the end, it'll turn out he had a plan, but you didn't really feel like I don't know. when the Patreon gets us to $10,000, we'll do our deep dive into all
into Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, into all
the
600 of those Looney Tunes before we ever do.
Dude, that sounds exactly like the right order. Oh man,
sorry I brought that up, but
it's
in terms of
it's a good comparison point, I think. Yeah.
Well, just to point out that that's a type.
Yeah.
That you do see that the prankster, and it's like Loki's not a good example of it, actually.
No. I'm going to assume we're almost done and I can edit that out.
Yeah.
Folks, air conditioning just turned on, so if you hear it, then that's what you hear. I just had a baby. You can put up with a little air conditioning. Yeah, no, I love that type, but
Loki's a different thing. What is Loki then?
I think it changes from movie to movie depending on what the filmmaker is in love with.
It's annoying because Marvel's...
I think Loki at his best could be that sort of thing. I think he sort of was in the first Avengers movie, which is one of the more effective Loki performances when he's allowed to just be a villain. But then he sort of became sweet and misunderstood. And what happened was he knocked it out of the park in Thor Dark World, actually.
Yeah.
Which was a good version of sweet Loki. But then they had to play to that, and he just kind of got defanged. And I actually like him in Thor Ragnarok just because it's a fun movie, but it's not a consistent Loki.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what they do with this Owen Wilson thing on Disney Plus. Looks kind of fun, I guess.
It does.
Yeah. It's more interesting than
Hawkeye.
Or Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Hawkeye.
I watched 2 episodes of and quit.
Boy,
that's my watermark.
Your watermark is
Hawkeye. The Hawkeye trailer.
If things can just get to that level, then Ben's like, I'm content.
No, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I haven't even watched the episodes. I watched the action scenes from the first 2 episodes. Kind of fun.
My wife had it on, and I was kind of in and out of the room. And those guys just actually don't have enough chemistry to carry a show. It's a miscalculation. That's my hot take on that show. It's just it not only does it not work, but it never could have. Those guys are just the wrong guys for it. Sorry, guys. I don't mind either one of you as an actor, although Sebastian Stan's never really impressed me all that much. Guys, is there anything else? I don't think we have to go through this Snyder cut scene by scene or anything. I mean, it's all kind of one big thing. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to draw people's attention to? Did the aspect ratio, the old-timey aspect ratio, bother you at all?
Didn't mind it at all.
I was a little annoyed by it at first, but I forgot about it after a while.
I think it's fun.
Go ahead, explain yourself.
Oh, I just think it's fun because it's different. I think Snyder's a pretentious jerk for doing it. Like it's.
I think it's just a budget-saving move that he pretended was a thing.
But what budget are they saving? They still have to finish all the special effects and stuff.
Yeah, but they have less screen to... They have less...
That could be. I don't know how much not generating that extra bit of field or warriors in this... I don't know. I mean, maybe that saves you $30 million. Maybe that saves you $10 million or $10. I just don't know.
I don't either.
It's an interesting theory, though.
I just can't imagine artistically why you wouldn't do 16:8.
I think Snyder is such a sincere guy, also a guy with his head somewhat stuck, where, that I just think he was doing it that way. He was editing it that way for IMAX. And then he was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to do this.
That's what he said.
And it'll be another thing that'll confuse Warner Brothers, and that like the people that aren't true Snyder fans will be like, we don't like that, but my fans will like it because I did it. I'm prom king, y'all. I just think that's Snyder. He wouldn't direct a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but he belongs in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He could be Yondu or something.
That's exactly.
That's funny.
That's what I imagined. I imagined Yondu when you said, "I'm prom king." Y'all.
I'm prom king, y'all. I don't know.
I've thought a few times whenever I Google his name, like his daughter's picture came up who committed suicide.
Yeah.
Autumn, and I feel sad. But then I'm like, it is ironic that the king of like, man, the gods are awesome, and you got to be your own master, and you gotta like, that's his family.
Yeah,
like he can't manage it.
You got to do this.
Family.
Yeah,
and here he is making films about gods and men.
Yep, which is when you put it that way, a very masturbatory thing for him to do. And yes, that's true. It is sad. I've avoided learning too much about that just because I don't know, when things like that happen and it's not someone who's really important, like a politician that I might have to vote for or something, I'm just kind of like, you know what? Why don't I give Zack Snyder his privacy? Like, I'm not blaming you for anything. I'm just saying that's kind of my instinct with stuff like that. Like, I don't really want to know what happened to Zack Snyder's family. It's not my business, and it's stupid that
maybe it's not even fair for me to bring it up. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it probably is. I think your point is a good one.
It's what we do on the Bookening with all of our authors.
Yeah. I think it's too bad that the tabloids and Variety magazine and these kinds of places have to publish these things. But insofar as we can't help knowing about them, I think they're worth commenting on. I'm just looking through my notes. Jake, was Cybertron's football game realistic? I've heard some people say that Zack Snyder doesn't understand football or something like that, because apparently if you look at the goal thing behind, it's like whatever's happening on that football field wouldn't be.
That is a great question. I just want to say,
Cyborgs. Football game's not realistic. No, it's not supposed to be.
I like that scene. I like he looks in slow motion to his mom, and then the camera pans. And his dad's seat is empty. Zack Snyder's not ashamed to just do that, to do something that would appear in like Cheaper by the Dozen 2 or something like that. Like, Steve Martin didn't make it to the big game. He was too busy. I love it. Yeah, I think that's all the notes that I really have. I guess my only other note is Patty Jenkins stinks at making Wonder Woman a credible action hero, and Zack Snyder's really, really, really good at it.
Yep, true.
So thanks, Patty Jenkins, for not doing a good job shipping women warriors.
Yeah, good job, Patty Jenkins.
Yay!
You exposed how ridiculous it is for this twig-like Israeli model to pretend to be a warrior. Zack Snyder just makes her zip around really fast, and you don't think about it too much. All right. Well, Ben, final thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. How many Cybertrons out of 10 would you give this?
How many mother boxes?
Yes, how many mother boxes out of 10 do you give this?
I don't know. That's a hard question. On the one hand, it's really cool and really fun. And on the other hand, it's really perverse and really stupid. So it's just really hard to know how to rate. I enjoyed it a lot. Do I want to go back to it? Probably not. I don't know.
Since people are
What do you
paying
want me
us
to say?
to make a judgment,
Okay.
why don't
All right, fine.
here I'll make one.
Fine.
Let me try. You guys can
Sure.
perfect this if it's bad. If you're the sort of person that would like to watch this and you think that you can watch it with some discernment and you don't have an appetite for what's perverse in it, then I'd say it's worth watching once because it's pretty cool.
I stand behind that endorsement.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 mother boxes.
That's right.
If you're not that person, then don't.
Sounds like you might have found the anti-Snyder Cut Justice League equation, Nathan.
Yes.
It's here in this podcast.
Oh man. One other thing, I may have said this last time, but some of the needle drops in this movie are so gloriously stupid, where the lyrics for these hipster songs
Oh my
that they
goodness.
find are just telling you especially the one where Amy Adams is standing by Superman's grave and the singer on the soundtrack is like, "We thought our gods would protect us, but now they're dead," or something like that.
Oh man, yeah, Snyder is not. You're right. He is super literal.
He's not he's not much for subtext.
Oh boy.
I kind of enjoy it though, I must admit. You know, we always say a story's better when they give you 2 + 2 and let the audience make 4.
But what if when they give you 1 + 1?
And then they tell you it probably makes 2, and then you should keep watching.
Yeah,
to
no,
verify.
I don't know. Is that even the metaphor? I think Snyder's like, I don't know what it would be. So a really good sophisticated story is 2 + 2 equals, it's 2 + 2, let the audience make 4. A bad story is, hey guys, 2 + 2 equals 4. What's Snyder? I guess he's just 4.
One is one.
Yeah.
1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
It's 1. There you go. I think that sums it up pretty nicely. Okay, well, Sanity at the Movies. Hey guys, we gotta shout out our patrons, or give our, what do we call it on this show? We need to assign a patron choice award of awesomeness to our good friend Seth.
Seth, you are,
Our good friend.
yes, half man, half machine.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, Seth, you're more man than machine. Even though you have awesome machine-like capabilities that, yeah.
And therefore, you're not twisted and evil.
No, you're untwisted and good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're more man than machine.
Yep. And
You're
if
more man than machine.
you had to face down the 3 evil spirits of the 3 mother boxes like Cybertron, you would totally win.
Oh yeah. I think that goes without saying. Hey folks, if you want to be shouted out
in an awesome manner, such as this.
such as Seth, I'll tell you what you do. You go to patreon.com/sanity at the movies. You drop us the right amount of money. I forget what it is. Probably $10 for a shout out. That's my guess. $5 will get you a lot of content. We've got a few Patreons associated with Warhorn Media. This is one of our best. You get complete series reviews of WandaVision, of The Mandalorian. You get me and Jake talking about Clone Wars, and maybe you're not excited about any of those shows, but I don't know. I think we have some of our best discussions when we're just casually discussing those things.
I think so too.
Always lots of interesting associations with sex and religion and culture and all the stuff that we love to talk about. So if you like hearing us gab about these kinds of things, I highly encourage you to go to patreon.com/sanity at the movies. Sign up. For the price of a cup of coffee, you could have hours of infotainment. You can hear us read the rejected Star Wars script.
Yeah.
For crying
Colin
out loud.
Trevorrow.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Back there.
That was a lot of fun. And that's
Give him a preview of your Princess Leia voice again.
oh yeah, what's the famous line that Leia says? It's what we do that defines us. That's a Batman line, but
It's a little bit more Harvey Fierstein, I think.
yeah, no. I'm just trying to think of one thing that Princess Leia says. And, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah, there you go. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. So the greatest and most accurate impression of what's her face?
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Sadly, isn't as much of a joke as it should have been if she'd lived her life a little bit differently. But she came from a messed up background, so, you know.
Some genius did a Lando Calrissian. That genius may or may not get sued for racial discrimination.
So yeah, somebody did a Lando.
If you don't...
We're not going to tell you who it was.
If you've not read that script, I encourage you to listen to us read that script. There's a scene where they're fighting the Knights of Ren, and Chewie managed, I don't remember what the mechanics of this are, but he launches one of them into space and then uses his blaster to shoot them like he's shooting a clay pigeon. And so if you wanted to hear us read a scene where Chewie shoots a Knight of Ren like he's a clay pigeon, which is much more interesting than anything that happened with the Knights of Ren and Rise of Skywalker, then you go there, patreon.com/Sanity the movies. A lot of fun, a lot of edification, and good stuff to be had there. Sign up today. And until next time.
We live in a society.
I don't think that counts. That's not actually from the movie.
What was the rest of that line supposed to be anyway?
It was really just filmed for the trailer.
Yeah, it's just based on that stupid meme. Okay, what's a line from this film? Although all the wonderful, memorable lines of dialogue in this movie.
I'm rich.
I'm rich.
I don't know, that's a line that'll live among a certain segment of nerddom. The Themyscirians, what do they say? Show them your fear. And then they all say like,
we have no fear.
We have no fear. Oh, one other random thought. The Zack, I guess everybody knows why now that all this stuff about Whedon's come out, but the Zack Snyder version, weirdly, much less weird sexualization of there's plenty in any superhero movie and certainly plenty here, but the Whedon cut was much more scuzzy about showing off Wonder Woman's outfits and the Themyscirians' outfits. And
oh yeah.
Huh.
Maybe because that got flack even before Whedon got Me Too'd.
Yeah, Snyder might have adjusted.
Yeah. I mean, they're still, the Themyscirians still are much less modest than they were in the Patty Jenkins the Wonderment. But yeah, it's not shot with the cameraman obviously salivating the way that it was in some of the Whedon stuff. So there you go. Random thought. Now you guys have to say another line. Until next time, surely Alfred has a good line.
Ride ain't over yet.
Right
ain't over yet.
Right ain't over yet.
Ride ain't over. Remember?
No.
Aquaman in the penultimate battle scene in the sky. He's launching through the sky. He's killing guys. He's falling. Cybertron catches him.
Right ain't over yet.
Right. Except he only says that in the Whedon cut, actually. Because
Come on.
Stupid.
No, but Aquaman does say, my man, in the Snyder cut.
Yeah, that's
No, he
right.
doesn't.
It does.
He does.
Oh.
They played it down. In the Whedon cut, he comes surfing out on a parademon and says, like, my man, into the camera. But in the Snyder cut, he just says, my man.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Hold on. Oh, my goodness.
Until next time.
This world will fall.
Oh, Jake, I think we can do better than that.
Sorry, I actually looked up the best quotes, and that was the number one.
The number one best quote.
Something is coming. I had a dream. It was the end of the world. I think it's something more, something darker. These are the best quotes from the movie, according to... Oh, my goodness. I've never... I got it. One misses when one's biggest concern...
No, that's Whedon. It's a good line, actually. But
exploding wind-up penguins?
Yeah, that's
Whedon cut?
you can just tell that's Whedon.
Oh, yeah. That is a good line.
It is. But it was still in the Snyder cut.
Was it?
I don't
think it was, but you can be anything you want to be.
Evil does not sleep. It waits.
It waits?
Wakes.
Oh, it
Waits.
It wakes.
It waits.
What? Oh, okay. Well, that's less dumb than what I thought they said.
Some call me the Martian Manhunter.
Don't count on it, Batman.
There we go. That's a chapter title.
It is, yeah.
All right, folks. See you next time.